Hello, everyone. Welcome to FMA Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Dr. Tim, and this is my co-host.
PG Ties here. Welcome.
How is everyone doing today? So, our guest is having a little technical issues, so we're kind of just going to be playing this by ear. Okay, and I'm having some technical things going on there too. So, in the theme, while we work some things out, what we hadn't had an opportunity to, well, first of all, everybody, please. I got a comment already. Didn't even get to do anything. Oh, so Mr. Wolf is saying, hello, guys.
Hey, PG Sam.
Hey, PG Sam. So, as always, everybody, please, if you get a chance to support the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and feel free to share this video wherever you feel appropriate. I would like to thank our sponsors, Vulpes Training Blades, Modern Arnis University, and our feature event, the 65th anniversary of Modern Arnis, this May 20th through 22nd. Okay, now that I got my announcer voice out of the way.
There you go.
And we'll have some we're going to start putting up feature events coming up in addition to that. On the 11th, there's several events. PG Sam has got his EDT course he's running down in Ohio, the same time that you are doing. I'll be there too. The fall fling.
That's right.
Providing there's no crazy weather between here and then.
Well, I'll be there regardless, but yeah.
Well, I'm talking about me being there.
Yeah. Well, that's the more important, right?
I don't know if it's important, but
just setting you up.
Set me up. Make me feel better. All right. I'm hoping our guest gets his stuff worked out. So I will have multiple screens going here.
At least it's not me not coming on this time.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, that we already kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, but I meant the other time where I was late.
Okay. Well, that's all good. That's all good. So
I just didn't get home from work until about an hour ago.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So, what we want to talk about is the Texas Modern Arnis Camp. We didn't get a chance to discuss that.
That's right.
And we could have, but we also were talking about our guests at the time. And so I want to talk about that. Then I got a little rant about last week's show, or something from last week's show that inspired me for a rant. That's been my rant for the last decade, but it's really, you made a comment to me that really resonated with me, and I want to do a show on it. But so Ty came down to assist in the Texas Modern Arnis Camp, and it was wonderful. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so I see my guest. So we're not going to add you to the stream right away. I can see you there. Hold on one moment. We'll make this a short one, and then I might. Oh, you know what? Hell with it. I'm going to bring you on now.
Might as well.
Carl. Oh my
Hey,
goodness,
Carl.
that's a great picture.
Okay, so I'm back.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
live on the show, by the way. So watch what you say, mean what you say, and hey, Larry, how you doing?
You never warned me to watch what I say.
Well, no, because who cares what you say?
That's what I figured. Okay.
So everybody, this is Carl Minkel, our featured guest. He is basically Modern Arnis, Maryland, and he's going to talk about what happened, how it started, stuff like that. We've got questions for him. Welcome to the show, Carl.
Glad to be here, finally.
All right, good.
Only talking about my technical difficulties here.
Okay, well, I'll let you look at that for a minute. We're going to just talk about the Texas camp, but so we got disconnected before, and I kicked him out of the thing to hopefully the reboot and all this. Well, you kicked him out to make it better? Yes, I did kick him out to make it better. So we're just going to do a quick review on the Texas camp, and then we'll talk about today's show.
All right.
Actually, and then my mini rant. So first of all, normally we don't do this, but with the technical issues, let's keep you on as much as we can. So we had a great 2-day mini camp down in Plano, Texas, just north, or just, is it north or is it just?
I think it's
northeast?
northeast. I think so. I think
northeast of Dallas. We had multiple schools there. I had people from Delaware and Virginia there, Colorado, Then as far as Texans go, we had people from Plano, Dallas, Houston. Really had a good cross-section of the area. I don't know if we had anyone from Fort Worth. Good time, good material. I think we had a nice balance of the art and some history that was relevant to the conversation. I made a post about it the other day, and Rocky chimed in and said, yeah, history's not that important to him. And I understand from a combative point of view, but a big part of what we talked about is where stuff was coming from. You know, when I teach, some of the things I teach are not exclusively modern Arnis. I pull from other multiple arts, including Balintawak, Remy's Brothers Art Kombatan, Panantukan, Kuntao, and stuff like that. And if you're going to pull from something, we need to make sure you reference the source properly when it's relevant to what we're doing. But I had a blast. And we actually, Ed Kwan shared a little while he was there, did a great job. Looking forward to the next event down there. Don't know when it's going to be, but, it was really good. And there's my man, Frank. How you doing, Frank?
Hey, Frank, how you doing?
And
my friend Billy.
Billy.
Magandang umaga.
All right. Billy, did you lose weight? You look amazing. I think it looks like she's lost some weight there.
That was a good picture.
It's a very good picture of you, Billy. So hopefully not being inappropriate.
Right. He always has a nice smile.
Billy always has a nice smile. Yep. I can't wait till we can get back there. I miss my friends there.
We need to get there. And then you see Larry showed up too.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about Larry.
Oh, okay. He was at the camp though.
Larry was at the camp. He came down from Colorado, and so that was good. We went through a lot of different topics, a bunch of good. I was very pleased with that event overall. So, just my problem was the fact. Actually, it was a good problem. I think in the long run, I did. And you know what? Stevensville was there. There we go. Stephen Sweeney was there.
Awesome.
Hey,
Steve.
Steve,
love you, man.
Oh my goodness, he killed me. Yeah. So evidently, certain people in Plano can't pronounce a T. I'm Dadu Tim. Dadu.
Yep.
Dadu. Also, it's not Dudu Tim.
No, it was good to see everyone. There was a lot of old friends, a lot of new friends, a lot of unmet friends. So it was good stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm very pleased. I had a great camp. I'm looking forward to more events down there. We're actually talking about doing a little tour instead of a camp next time. Go to different areas and see what we can make happen for there. Because but my little mini rant. Last week's show, we're talking about FMA schools as a full-time entity, as a commercial business, and the comment said, well, one guy made a comment of, hey, it's not very common. It's a rare thing. And what was your response to that when we were talking?
Something along the line that's unfortunate. That's sort of an accepted default.
The mindset shouldn't be, FMA schools are rare. And when we're talking about schools, we're talking a commercial business. We're not talking you subletting out of another gym or something like this. We're talking a Filipino martial arts school, not Filipino martial art program run out of somebody's karate or taekwondo center or a rec center or fill in the blanks. We're talking as a standalone thing. And if we go with the mindset that the default is that's a rare thing, we will never fix that rare thing.
Yeah, all it takes is you just doing it. I mean, that's what you did.
Enough said. So we will have a show.
If you can do it, anybody can.
Well, there we go. Yeah, that's what I always say. Now, there are, and we're going to talk about it, and there are many programs out there, and we've had people who've taught modern Arnis proper by its own program. We've also had a fusion, and we also, where it's more of a hybrid between programs, or it was the enhancement to the primary arts. And, and I think there's room for all of them. I just like, knowing what we're doing, so when if you're doing a blend and you do things such as kicking in it, and you're doing Thai kicks when it's not Filipino, and calling it Filipino, there's where the issue is. Although there is Yao Yan, which parallels Thai boxing. So, but we'll talk about this. So let's get into today's show. Carl Minkel has been a staple in the modern East community for a long time. I met him. Oh my! I don't know when I met him. It was in the 90s, but he's been around a long time. Actually, because of his event, I got to meet the Lodger family, the brothers, as well as I think Dad, who all came to visit Remy. I think that was the '99 seminar. I was there. I know I was there for '99 and 2000. Yep. I'm not sure if I did stuff prior to that. It's hard to keep track of all the events you do. Had a great event. I wish I could have stayed more, but I went and visited with Michael and Michael Bates, and we drove down, and he drove. I got to Philly. He drove that way, and then he was like, "Come on, let's go." I'm like, "Okay," because we also went to the Lonzas the day after in New Jersey, which was fun. But we didn't do as much socializing as we normally would have done, so I didn't get to meet Carl. Actually, I met Carl more from your events than anything else. I mean, we really sat down and talked, and been very sharing. I showed the certificate you gave me recently, that old school certificate of Remy with Remy's photo on it. But Carl, welcome to the show. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You guys sound like you're doing well.
So what's going to happen at one point? I've got a karate okay, so here's the reverse. Most schools that have Filipino martial arts, the Filipino martial arts are subletting. There's actually an Okinawa Kempo program that's subletting for me. So once they shut down the classes, I'll be locking things up. So Maria Aquino says hello from Toronto. Always pleasure. And then Bill Anderson. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, Bill.
Greetings to Datu Tim, PG Ty, and guests.
So right. you mentioned you met got to know Carl better from my events. So did I, because I think that's how that's how we got to know him better. Anyway, so
I'll start off with the first question. How did you get into martial arts in general?
Okay. Well, I entered high school in 1959. It was a all-male school run by Jesuit priests and brothers. And part of the gym requirement was both boxing and wrestling. So that was my first introduction. Back then, I was born legally blind. So for my early years, the first 20 or so, I had to wear big, thick glasses because there was no contact lens that could correct my vision. Okay. And so although I enjoyed boxing, clearly not being able to see my opponent was a disadvantage.
I can see where that would be a problem.
So, so I entered college in 63, and I was in the gym shooting baskets, and a bunch of people started filtering in and said, you need to get out of here with that basketball. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, we're having fencing tryouts. And I was annoyed at being told to leave, so I hung around. And I tried out for the fencing team. Now, my experience with a sword was limited to watching Zorro on TV.
Some people might remember that, but not very many.
And much to my surprise, I made the team.
Cool.
With zero experience. And the coach was actually a very well-respected international coach. And he recognized that I had a natural talent, and so I bypassed the normal progression of foil and epee and went directly to saber. And in 1966, I finished third in the Middle Atlantic NCAA Championships and was named to the All-Conference team.
Nice.
And so when I got out of college, I continued to fence. And I fenced until about 1972. And at that point, one of my coworkers was testing for Taekwondo at a school in Baltimore. And I went to watch, and I was really intrigued by it. And at that point, they had actually developed contact lenses that would work for me. And so I thought, I'd like to get back into doing something that's a little more contact oriented. I started studying Taekwondo. I got my first degree in '77. And the school that I trained in was run by a Filipino, Master Fred Ocampo. And Master Fred started bringing down Chris Syock from New York.
Nice.
And he was teaching at that time Pikiti Terja Kali that he had been instructed in by Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe.
Mhm.
And I took one look at it and I said, I don't know what this stuff is, but I want to learn that. So he did a seminar. Nice. And after that, I started taking regular classes. Unfortunately, most of the other black belts in the school who were really good fighters, they had no interest in Arnis or Kali. And so Chris Syock stopped coming. But I wanted to continue, so I found an instructor over in Baltimore at the Coast Guard Yard, a gentleman named Pete Espinas. And he was teaching a family system. And so I studied with him for about 3 or 4 years and got a first degree, Lakan Isa from him in, they called it Combat Arnis. It's part of the International Philippine Martial Arts Association. And at about the same time, I also became the Taekwondo instructor at a club on the Fort Detrick military base. And I was teaching a little bit of what I'd learned from Pete Espinas and, of course, Taekwondo. The colonel wanted more of an emphasis on self-defense, had heard about this guy, Remy Prasis, and wanted me to go check it out and see if that would be something that I could bring back and teach them.
Okay.
So I attended seminars with Remy in '85 and '86. And I really liked what I was seeing. This idea of it's all the same and it's all connected, and the things he was showing me just made perfect sense to me. Mm-hmm. So in '87, I attended one of the Philadelphia camps run by Joe Bridenstine and Dennis Toston.
Okay.
And at the end of the camp, a professor approached me. He said, how come you're not testing for black belt? And I said, well, I already have a black belt. And he said, oh. He said, well, technique is good. He said, I recognize your rank and my style.
Okay.
Well,
nice.
I was hooked now. Okay. So from then on, I became the Maryland representative for Modern Arnis. And
what year was that again?
Sponsored seminars with Remy every year. I'm sorry?
What year was that again? Approximately?
That would have been 87 was the first camp that I attended.
Wow.
The first full camp. I think I actually stopped by the '86 camp, but the first full one I took was '87.
And '87 is when he not.
And so I continue to go.
He recognized you in '87 for the, as far as the representative goes.
Lock on. Yes.
Excellent.
Nice.
So I brought him in every year thereafter, at least once a year, sometimes twice. And I attended all of the East Coast summer if I could. I attended Philadelphia, and then that closed down and went up to Richard Roy's place. He did some at Mount Holyoke, and then he did some at Franklin Pierce, I think, which was in a different state. And I also went down to North Carolina. I went down to Erwin Carmichael's camps. And Dwayne Ranieri also had a camp in Pennsylvania at one point. So I think that was
I know he did 2 winter camps, and I was at both of them. So maybe we hung out there.
I was there.
Oh, but we probably hung out a little.
And so all of these things I brought my students. I always brought students. Any camp I went to, I had 5 or 10 people with me.
Perfect.
And now when the professor passed away, I saw him at the Philadelphia, the camp that Michael Bates had organized.
Right.
And I spoke to Remy, and he had me sit down next to him. We chatted for a little bit, and he turned to me and he told me explicitly, he said, I want you to continue training. He said, but I want you to train with Jeffrey. So I took that to mean Jeff Delaney.
Right.
And that's what I did as long as Jeff was around, but then he took off for Hawaii, and that was the end of that. And I've been friends for about 40 years with the Ladra brothers, and always supported their efforts to bring quality Filipino martial arts to Maryland. And they started bringing in Grand Tuhan Leo Gahe. Well, my first exposure to Filipino art was Takiti Terja Kali. And now here was the Grand Tuhan of Takiti Terja Kali in my backyard teaching.
Right.
And so I've been back training with VT ever since. So I still teach modernists. I still have a loyalty to Remy. He taught me a lot, and I want his system to continue. I teach the three flavors that Tim was just talking about a little bit ago. I have a blended program where I'm teaching primarily Taekwondo, but I use modern Arnis for the self-defense portion. And I teach some basic Sinawali in that. I also have a Filipino martial arts program that is a mix of all the different things that I've studied related to Filipino martial art. And then I also have a separate modern Arnis only class once a week. So that's where I am.
Nice. All right, let me. Cool. Let me see.
You said you're friends with the Ladra brothers for a long time. I didn't get to finally meet. I've been out here for 15 years. I didn't get to meet Bobby Ladra until earlier this year. That was the first time. But I had tried to get in touch with him once in a while, so that was good to close that loop. But you don't teach Pakiti yourself. You just study with Grand Tuhan and the brothers sometimes.
No, I teach it. But I consider myself to be under Tuhan Bobby. Bobby's Tuhan. Grand Tuhan Gahe has promoted me to Mandala. Okay. A few years back, he promoted me to Matasna Guru, and then I think my certificate right now, 2019, he promoted me to Mandala. So I do teach it, but I don't give rank in it.
Gotcha.
Any rank I pass on to. I did basically the same thing when Remy was alive. I never awarded rank, although he told me I could up to a certain level. But what I did is I always brought my students to a summer camp and let them test at the summer camp directly in front of Remy.
Yeah.
But
I preferred that
very
too.
few. But I didn't have. I think I've only got one or two that ever actually got their black belts at a summer camp from Remy. I have more than that subsequently trained with either Ken Smith or Jeff Delaney and got their black belts there after Remy passed.
Sure.
Which is still keeping things going.
Yep.
Yep. All right, let me talk to a couple of our viewers. So Guam is in the house. Thank you, Bill, for logging in. Jeremy from Sudbury, Ontario, or somewhere
Canada.
No sound.
No, he's got it now. He went to YouTube. So yeah, if you're having trouble on Facebook, you can always go to YouTube. You're good to go.
There we go. YouTube always works better. Yeah, you can always chime in better. And then Arnis English, Arnis. Yeah, Arnis. Come back when you learn this.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. We'll not talk about that, Gar. So here's what I'm going to say. So, Pete, depending on the region, there's different pronunciations, and at the end of the day, as much as we might have different regions of the country with different pronunciations or mispronunciations, at the end of the day, if people are spreading the Filipino martial art, that's a good thing. And and I don't think anyone. Well, I don't think our guest is claiming to be an expert. So, in a politically correct way, screw you. All right. Sorry about that, Carl. You got people who are making some comments because they don't like your pronunciation of the word Arnis or Arnis or Arniz, which is another way I've heard about it saying. And, tomato, it's still all the same. There's still the same angles of attack.
As long as we don't start talking about Panatukan.
And Steven's Panatukan, how are you?
Exactly.
Steven gives me a thumbs up on that one. So listen, I use the Panatukan with an A because I'm near Canada, eh?
There you go.
So there's always something.
I've heard many people pronounce it Arnis. I've also heard many people pronounce it Arnis. And my understanding, when I first heard it from Remy, at least what I heard from my ears was Arnis. And the purpose of language is communication. So as long as I'm communicating that's the art that we're talking about, I try to be open-minded.
There you go. And Gerald popped in from Florida. Hey, Gerald. I know that guy.
Okay, yep. Gerald Carter. All right. Let me see. All right. So what's our next question there, Ty?
Well, I asked one, but now I've lost track. We got the little sidetrack there. I think so. One of the things is you're actually coming to the event on the 11th, isn't that right? I think that's right.
I will be there.
And I think you're teaching too, right?
Well, you and I had talked about that before, and I've taught most years there, and I'm certainly willing to teach. But
oh, that's right. Yeah.
I thought it would be a good time for other people. It seemed like there were other people now that, sometimes you had an open slot, and it looked to me like you were getting a lot of interest in people teaching. So I said, well, let them have a crack at it. But if you end up with an open slot, I'd be happy to fill it.
Absolutely. No, that'd be great. Yeah, I had lost track of that. The other thing is this year it's a round robin thing. So I just wanted to let people know that's one place they can see you. Whether you're teaching or not, they can see you and follow up and say hi and those kinds of good things.
Okay.
Good deal. And you bring students to that too, and friends.
I do indeed.
Where are we on here? So let's see. So you now where do you teach out of?
Well, I have two locations. Basically, I teach in Mount Airy, Maryland, and I also teach in Frederick.
Okay.
And if you don't know where Mount Airy is, there's a triangle formed by Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Frederick. And Mount Airy is basically on the line. It's basically 25 miles north of Washington, D.C., and midway between Frederick and Baltimore. And
some feedback. I've been there multiple times, but I have no clue where I am when I'm there because it's usually either somebody else is driving or it's all on the GPS.
There you go.
Back in the day, we actually used maps.
That's how we all got to these things that we went to all over the place. You did talk about some of the places you went to on the on the East Coast here with Remy. So as far as north, west, and south, how far did that range? Because it sounds like you got around.
Yeah, well, I guess the northernmost was.
Excuse me, sorry.
I guess the northernmost would have been Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and then I went as far south as North Carolina.
Okay,
nice.
We got some friends in North Carolina.
Yes, we do.
And
you probably met Roland Rivera if you were down there.
That's right.
All right, I'm going to do my thing because people are leaving, so I'm going to.
Okay.
So this is the part. I mean, Carl, you've seen the show at times, usually the day after. But this is the part where I walk away. I can still hear, although Ty thinks he can make fun of me. I still listen in. So by all means. But I know Carl's that kind of guy. If he's going to take a shot at you, he's going to do it right to your face.
That's right.
Good. But I let Ty have fun with this.
So let's see. Yeah. So
take it away, Ty.
There you go. I don't know about that. We're just chatting here. So actually, let's see. You have been to all those camps. Did you also go to some local seminars as well? I know some people only went to camps, and then some people also went to seminars, or some people just went to seminars.
No, I supported all. If there was a seminar within 50 to 100 miles, I was there. I went to quite a few. Michael Bates had quite a few seminars. There was also the Three Masters thing of Wally J. and George Dillman and Remy Prasis at Jim and Judy Claps in Delaware. I supported those every year.
Right.
I also went down to the Karate College in Radford the year that Remy and Wally J. taught there.
Oh, excellent. So I got one other part of that question, and then I'll get to your question, Frank. Since you've been to both camps and seminars, can you describe, what in your words, what would you say were some of the differences and similarities? Because at least in my mind, I did notice a few things different in seminars, but I just want to hear your take or what you saw, because we all saw different pieces. So yeah, share what your thoughts on the differences and similarities, or goodnesses or badnesses.
Most of the seminars that I attended were pretty basic. I think Remy very often taught to the crowd. And if he saw that there were a lot of people that didn't have a lot of familiarity, then he stayed, pretty much with the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
The camps, obviously you ended up people with a variety of people, and most of them had experience. And since you had plenty of black belts to help out, it was easy to chop them up into groups and teach techniques that were appropriate to those groups. Now, one thing that I did observe thinking of camps is that apparently there is a fair amount of difference between what was taught in Michigan and what was taught on the East Coast. Okay. And that caused some questions and some friction among the higher ranked people, especially when Remy introduced the tappy.
Right.
Because now, in fairness to the professor and his memory, every time he saw me, he said, "Carl, you should go to Michigan. Carl, you should go to Michigan." And I kept saying, "Professor, I have business all up and down the East Coast. I can always get to a camp and write it off as a business expense. But there's nothing for me in Michigan. It's just the wrong direction for me."
Right.
And I understand now that what he was saying to me is that, boy, I should really go there and get some of this other material. But I didn't, and so I had to learn it later. But I still remember when Remy introduced it on the East Coast, and he brought some of the black belts from the Michigan camps to help teach. And so they were guys they were black belts, but some of them were lower in rank than some of the people on the East Coast. And here they come, and they can do all this stuff that we weren't familiar with.
So do you remember any of those people? Okay. You talked about the Michigan camp. I heard that, and I was an East Coaster, and the second camp I went to was Michigan. But what people did he bring to the East Coast events? Because to be honest with you, I was a seminar rat, and I never saw any guys from Michigan at the seminars.
Well, maybe I'm wrong on my geography then, but where's Chuck Gauss and Ken Smith?
Well, that would have been so Chuck's Michigan, but Chuck didn't start until 91.
Right.
And then Kenny started in 92. So
But they came to that East Coast camp that I'm thinking about.
Okay. Well, maybe that, right. Okay. So you're talking, they just went to a particular camp per se. I mean, listen, there's no question that the Michigan event, and also Frank asks, did you ever go to seminars in Connecticut?
Yeah, where he is.
Well, in Connecticut, probably not. I mean, I was up there a few weeks ago at Brian Zielinski's thing, but
yep, we saw each other there.
I mean, I've
So,
spent a lot of time in Connecticut because I worked for the United States Navy, and so I spent a lot of time at the sub base at Groton and New London and Electric Boat in that area.
okay, so, and then Pete just
So it's a
chimed
pretty
in.
straightforward drive for me.
He apologized, said no disrespect intended. I don't want to talk that way. I love it. Got here by mistake. Won't bother you anymore. Okay, well, thank you, Pete. And of course, by saying that, Google Assist just started kicking in. Was it a certain topic they were teaching, like the tappy tappy?
Yeah, it was the tappy tappy.
Okay.
That was the first time I just to back up a little bit. When I was having seminars here in Maryland, a professor would usually come on a Thursday, like a Thursday evening, and then we would train all day Friday. And then we'd do the seminar on Saturday and then maybe train a little bit more on Sunday before he would leave. Later on, he was oftentimes traveling with someone, and so he wanted to stay in a hotel. And so we kind of skipped that part. But when he was coming to my home and training with me, he taught me a lot of the single stick sparring.
Yep. Sure.
And in
And
fact,
actually, that is tappy tappy. The biggest problem was that Remy called. So tappy tappy initially was basically Sagitas from Balintawak without footwork. It was simplified, made easier, and you would put it in the solo baston semi sparring, but he didn't. Tappy tappy wasn't the solo baston, and then eventually what happened, he combined those two divisions because you didn't do tappy tappy without doing solo baston. And when he first started calling it, a lot of people got confused because, like myself, I did tappy tappy the original version, which was the highly Balintawak influenced version, and it wasn't the left on right solo baston, for lack of a better term. And when Remy first debuted it, we had a lot of headbutting just to get the terminology worked out. And those guys, those guys went to camps. They weren't so many seminars as some of the rest of us did.
I like you're talking though about when he trained you, when he stayed at your house and trained. You get so obviously you said he shared some. A lot of the cane single stick semi sparring. Anything else he trained? Because one of the things I know that is if it's the right place and you're the right person, he preferred staying with you, and then he would share a lot and do those kinds of things. So I'm very interested to hear you go on maybe about more things he shared with you while he was doing that.
That was the main thing. He showed me a little bit of knife.
Okay.
And that's one thing. Thinking about the summer camps that I went to. He always threatened to teach knife, and he never did at the ones that I went to. Okay, it was always brought up. Everybody, make sure you bring this and bring your practice knife like that, but we never used it. Okay. But when there was one time when he was at my place where he did teach me some knife, and it was strange stuff to me at the time because a lot of it was trapping with the knife close to the body, his own body. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, you've got to have some skill to pull that one off.
Right.
I'll tell you one other quick story about the single stick sparring.
Sure.
We were working out in the living room one time, and my wife was in the kitchen, and she was watching what was going on. And so we'd be doing this, that, all of a sudden, boom, something would hit me. I go, damn. And I could never figure out what the hell was going on because we'd be in the middle of something, all of a sudden, pop. And then I thought, well, okay. I'm with the Grandmaster. Of course I'm getting hit.
Right.
And we stopped and took a break, and my wife comes over, and she's laughing. And I'm going, what's so funny? She says, you don't know how he was hitting you, do you? I said, well, no. She said, he switched to his left hand, and then he switched back.
Right.
And I kind of went,
And there you go.
So that's now become one of my favorite techniques.
Nice. Oh, there we go. That's funny. Because Raymond said the same thing. Okay, so Steve Sweeney said the same thing.
Yeah, he stayed at Raymond's house one night. Yep.
Yeah. That's good. It's
These connections are great because it brings together everybody's common experiences.
I don't think people realize how much Remy wanted to interact with people. Everyone thought. I think that's one of the reasons why he went by professors instead of grandmaster, because, I think a lot of times when people say GM, it deifies them, and there's this distance. And Remy didn't want to be like. He wanted to hang out with the peeps. He didn't want to. I remember going out dancing with them and going to falls and going to Fuddruckers, and he liked doing everyday stuff that he didn't get to do because he was too busy being GM Remy.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that always struck me about Professor is just his humanity, and he would sometimes look at something and see something that, how should I put it? Just a couple of examples. One time he was here, and we were exiting the house through the garage. And at the time, I had a 1959 Triumph TR3.
Nice.
And he stopped as soon as he saw that car, and he stared at it for a long time. And he goes, and I said, "Professor, do you drive?" He went, "Oh, yes." He said, "But this car," he said, "I like this car. It's strong. It's very strong." And another time, he saw a picture that I had lying on my dining room table. It was a newspaper article about my Korean instructor. And he picked it up and he looked at it. He said, "Who is this?" And I said, "Well, it's my Korean instructor." And he said, "This is a person." I was puzzled. Well, how do you know this is a very good person? He said, "Just look at the way he sits." So it's just little things like that that kind of stuck in my memory,
You kind of broke up there for a second. I couldn't hear what you said he said, but I think you're back now.
Yeah, he says something about his Korean instructor. If you could repeat that last portion.
Yeah, so it was a picture of the instructor, and Professor looked at it, and after he looked at it for a little bit, he said, "This is a very good person."
Oh.
And I looked at him and said, how do you know that that's a very good person? He says, "Just look at the way he sits."
Okay.
That just from the way that guy was in his natural environment and the way he was presenting himself, that conveyed something to Professor immediately, that this is a good person.
Nice.
I mean, who else says that?
Right. Well, he definitely studied people for sure.
Well, isn't that what martial arts is? Part of it is, at least.
Yep.
So you and I talked before on the pre-show, and I know you're not a fan of grappling. So that was, we were going to say, like,
if I could bench press 250 pounds, I'd be a fan of grappling.
Okay, but so the
But when I've got the 250 I can't move, I'm not happy.
So the question is, what's your favorite part of the art, then?
There you go.
What's my favorite part of the art?
Yes.
I like the
And
empty-hand
it could be a
self-defense.
concept. It could be a technique.
Technique, I really like switching to the left hand.
Okay.
Because that's something I've done all my life. Even when I fenced, I would sometimes put the saber in my left hand just to mess with the mind of my opponent, because they knew I was a righty.
Nice.
Even when I was in high school and I was making money on the side, I used to bowl professionally.
Oh, wow.
And what I would do is sometimes people wouldn't go up against me one-on-one because they knew what my average was. So I said, "Look, I'll tell you what, I'll bowl left-handed. You spot me 30 pins." Okay? I got a lot of takers on that. What they didn't know is that I was a 165 bowler left-handed. So you're going to have to roll a 200 to beat me.
Carl is a hustler.
He's a ringer, yes.
He's a ringer.
Well,
He's our kind of
when you
people.
don't have much money,
A grifter. Nice. I knew I liked him.
Yeah, there was some reason we didn't know what it was, but now we do.
Hey, they set themselves up for it, so
No one twisted anyone's arm.
that's right.
So besides the ability to switch back and forth, is there a family grouping of techniques that speak to you? Is there, is there
You
one particular?
You guys have seen. Well, Ty in particular has seen some of the stuff that I teach, and what I really like doing is my approach to self-defense is a little bit different, I think, than a lot of people. I've mentioned to you that I study. Well, let me back up a little bit. Because of the work that I did for 37 years, I had to do a lot of work with understanding how does an expert become an expert? How does the human brain work? And so I take that and use that as my approach to teaching self-defense. So I have simple things and it seems to me like Filipino martial art just merges just beautifully into those same concepts. Because the first concept is distance, right? How do you cover the distance? How do you keep the opponent from covering the distance?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get off the attack line?
Excuse me. Oh.
And so I build a lot of things around the basic cut, check, and return. Whether we do it from Sinawali or Remy's rapid fire drill and that sort of thing. So I think in terms of more the natural techniques.
Okay.
But those principles extend throughout the Filipino systems. And you can add a little bit from each one. I really like the idea of no gaps. And especially in PTK, they have that idea of no gap and not. Again, I go back to my fencing background. The reason I only had a few tricks in fencing, but they worked really well for me. And it was basically a stop hit. Okay, so Tim, I know you've done some fencing, so you're probably familiar with that term, right?
It's also JKD folks use that term.
Yeah, in Pikiti Territory, they might call it an insert.
Okay.
It's where you have to really speed up, but you still have to be able to pick up the parry. You're attacking into the opponent's attack. You're deflecting his attack by moving into it rather than blocking it and countering. And so it's a matter of efficiency. And the Filipino arts cover it all.
There you go, everyone. It said it right there. They cover it all. FMA. I think that's probably the downfall a lot with the mindset that, one of the issues I see is that a lot of people send no send. There you go. I think a lot of people, there are some Filipino systems that have no open hand element to it at all. We do know that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very common. I think one of the reasons why, the strength and the weakness of modern is he did what everyone else did. Well, but in a different mindset. What a lot of people do is when they're doing FMA, they're expected to do boxing, jiu-jitsu, or something else to fill in the deficiencies of the art that they're training. Because, and I don't say if an art is deficient per se, but if it's focusing on let's say fencing. We'll use fencing as the example because it's fair game. It's in the conversation at the moment. So you're not punching and kicking in fencing, and if you do HEMA, historical European martial arts, that's another topic.
Right.
But if you take fencing as a sport and try to use that as an art to defend yourself in those contexts, okay, you're fine if it's in that kind of weapon. But what happens when someone comes and punches you or grabs you and stuff like that? So they're expected to go in other arts. Now, Remy, he embraced that, but he showed you how to blend modern your Filipino concepts with your primary system, where some arts, what they did is say, no, you're going to do our FMA this way, and it has to be done this way, and then you can go get your open hand combatives elsewhere. So I think that's when you look at. I was thinking about this recently. Is like, why, because modern doesn't have a good. I don't think it's a good representation of FMA per se. I think there's some good modern people out there who are good at FMA, but it was mostly done to enhance a primary system. And for those who took the extra steps to take it to the next level, you could see that, there's plenty of people I've seen that are very good representatives of Filipino martial arts, and they're doing the art, and they're doing Remy's art. But as a whole, as the norm, it was used to enhance. And the different approach, I think, that say some of these other systems do is like we use my friend Michael Horon, the Bahala Na. It's all weapon based. Okay. I've never seen any open hand combatives from them. So they're expected to do striking and grappling elsewhere. They make their FMA done at a high level of expertise. But they're depending on these people getting those missing pieces elsewhere, where Remy showed how to blend it all together and just made you a better martial artist, not necessarily a Filipino martial artist.
One of the things that struck me was that during most of the time that I trained with Professor, I very rarely saw him address footwork or teach footwork. And I asked him about it one time, and he said, "Oh, they'll get that from their instructor." Some of them never did.
Right.
And that's okay. So I went to all the Michigan camps while Remy was alive and teaching. And when I was there, we did footwork. But I do know that Michigan camp was an advanced camp. It wasn't a basic camp. Matter of fact, Richard Roy went to that camp to model his camp after. Because where did we start? It was 1987 was the first Michigan camp. So 86 was my first camp. That was Mississippi. That was a one-off. So by the time I was ready to go places, Philadelphia was beginning to look for another look. Things were winding down there. Don't know why.
You ruined Philadelphia.
I never been to Philadelphia prior to that. It wasn't my fault. I enjoyed going to Philadelphia, but I wish the camps were there when I was going. Not that I wouldn't go to Michigan, but I really enjoyed. I love Philadelphia. There's not that much to do. East Lansing is where the Michigan camp was, or MSU University. There's really nothing to do there. It's a college town in the middle of nowhere. Philly's badass. There's a whole bunch of cultural things you could do down there.
Lots of things to do. Yep.
But I think the problem is when you don't have a headquarters. Well, okay. So I heard you talking before. I was disappointed that you weren't talking bad about me, Ty. But I heard you were thinking it. But the thing here is I get that you go to the seminars. Professor teaches to the masses. Now here's the question: you have a basic seminar. How many of those were new people? And here's the real question: of those new people, were they under someone who was doing modern Arnis, or were they just people who walked in out of the blue? If it was someone that came from another Arnis program, like Buffalo, we had 11 Arnis programs, 11 of them at the same time, and we'd have when they were being done at the college, we'd have like 50 people coming in every time, but the problem was, it wasn't 40 of them were brand new every time. I'm like, well, where's the retention? And listen, no one came walking in off the street. It was all these people that were coming in were from another program, another modern Arnis program. And the back of my mind was like, well, the instructor was failing them because they're telling them to go to this event, which I always brought my people to, but I prepped my people for the event. I didn't just throw them in the deep end and say, well, sink or swim, because I also knew everyone I brought, if they were behind the curve, they would take away from the event. Right. Personally, I think part of it is that in some cases, the black belts themselves may have failed, and it wasn't Remy's doing. Remy, I mean, oh my God, the one time I was in Europe teaching, I'm not going to say the country, but I've always said that the Europeans were behind us, from knowledge-wise, not physical ability. They're better than us physical ability. They're better athletes. It's in their comp sport. They're government subsidized to do physical activities. We see it in Germany, Sweden, Denmark. So they get funding to go exercise. Wouldn't that be nice? But they don't have access to the material like we do. And I remember going to a seminar. Usually they're like 5 years behind us, 10 years behind us. And I kept going, oh my God, they're like 15, they're like 20 years. Oh my God, no one here knows what's going on. What the hell was I thinking? Trying to teach something because the instructor said these people are good, they can handle it. Well, no, they didn't. And that instructor failed them. I eventually changed topics and then went into the beginning material of something, and they all had a blast because they all felt good about what they were doing. But a lot of times I think the seminar hosts may write a check that the students' bodies can't cash. And then if it's a beginner seminar, why would you bring Remy in? I mean, that's another one. I mean, it's like, all right, if you've had him in before, wouldn't you want your top people there? Well, that's just my mindset. I'm a jerk, so who cares? So Bill Anderson has something to say here. Let's see what Bill says. That's what got me started in FMA in the 70s in the 70s Philippines. Inclusion of empty hand, edge weapons, stick work, always enjoyed to suit the individual's needs, in my own opinion. Yep. Gotcha, Bill. You're my man.
But one thing I'll just add is that the seminars where I brought Remy to Maryland, he scheduled those ahead of time. That's not something where I went to him and said, "Oh, I'd like to have you on here or there." He would tell me. I think he would.
I know what happened.
I think he would map out an itinerary where he wanted to be able to go from this site to that site to that site. And if I was one of the waypoints in between, then I was having a seminar.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if. Well, I think also Remy would just, when you're done at the last event, when you got done with the seminar, he'd pull out his book and go, all right, what's good next year for you too? So
yeah,
I don't think Remy knew geography though, because like we figured out the one time within a 2-hour radius of Philadelphia, he was there 11 times in 1 year. I don't think he realized. I mean, he would go to you. The next day, he was in Vineland. No, not Vineland. He was in New Jersey with the Lancers. It may have been Vineland. He was at Quakertown, which is like 40 minutes north of Philly. He'd go to Media, which is Philadelphia. Part in Jersey. I mean, he was like kept going all over that area, and I really don't think he realized he would do the same thing out west too. He'd be out there so often, and because people gave him different towns, he didn't realize. Like if I said in Buffalo, if I said, all right, we got West Seneca, Cheektowaga, North Tonawanda, Hamburg. He just hears 4 cities. He doesn't hear it's all Buffalo. They're 4 different places. So I don't know. He wasn't the guy that would have a map in his back pocket and say, where are these in relationship to each other?
But didn't he also live in Jersey City, New Jersey for a while?
He lived, he surfed from one house to another.
I thought he had a cousin there.
He's got a cousin everywhere.
Well, that's part of the Filipino culture also.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think he would go everywhere, and I don't think he realized as much as we thought he did. You know, I just think he would get gigs. And I mean, listen, I knew Remy. When someone offered him a gig, he booked it.
And like you said, once he was done, he would book the next one. That way, he keeps on going and building.
This was his. This was 90% of his income.
Yep.
Was camps and seminars. Actually, probably like 95%. Then he started doing some merchandise, and then he and I had a deal where I was supposed to go to the Philippines with him. He passed away before it happened, but I was going to go with him, and he's going to hook me up with the vendors, and then I would cut him on a percentage because he would do all the heavy lifting. So all I had to do was write a check, and I'm like, I'm down with that. I'll give you a piece of that. You know, matter of fact, he would come back with Kamagong stuff, Kamagong daggers, Bahi sticks, Kamagong sticks. They'd go to the camp, and all of a sudden I'd hear, "Oh, Professor's got all this stuff." Really? About a half hour later, Professor had no stuff, and they're all like, "Oh, Professor, I thought you had all these things." I sold them. To who? Didn't. They're all looking at me. I'm like, I wrote a check because I got a better deal than you guys. Because he would always go, like the book. The book was a fun one. Tim, you probably heard this, Carl. Take a case of the book, sell a book for $25, keep $8. Okay. And I'd be like, no, I don't like that deal.
Yeah.
What if I pay for it all now? Oh, half off. Okay, done. But I think that's why I got along with him so well, because that's the Filipino culture, the haggle. All good.
Well, that's one thing. We have a fairly substantial Filipino culture in the area where I am. Maryland has quite a Filipino population, and there's a lot of Filipino martial art, and just look at what happens at Ty's events. I mean, you get all these guys, and
yep.
Everyone shares, and there's, I've seen some stuff that I've never seen before at Ty's camps or seminars.
Yeah, well, we've kept him to not go regimental in his kilt anymore, so I don't think we'll see that anymore.
Certainly not a winter. No, yeah.
Ty's got a very good event, December 11th. And Guru Carl and myself have both taught there. And I highly advise. Actually, the last one we did sparring. Actually, everyone started sparring. I'm like, well, you're not doing this without me. I hopped out there and realized that I haven't done backyard martial arts sparring in a long time. Oh, they're like, oh wow, we used to really swing to hit each other hard. Holy cow! I go, I feel that one. But it was good. I had a blast.
No, I would say it's not my event. It's a community event, right? Because it's everybody share and come together, and that's how it should be, I think. But anyway, I definitely appreciate seeing you there, Carl, and you're always welcome to teach, to share, to play, to eat, to sit around and talk, whichever you want. It's a good stuff. I've lost my place in my questions now. Carl, by the way, is there anything we missed that you wanted to definitely talk about while we get back on track here?
No, not really. I don't want to digress too far from
memorabilia that you keep coming up with?
Memorabilia.
You have this unique ability of pulling things rabbits out of your hat. Hey, Tim, did you see this? No. Where the hell did you get that?
Right.
Tim, did you see this? Oh my God, I haven't seen that in 30 years.
I've been going through old files, and I keep finding all these old photographs. In fact, I've got a couple sitting here on my desk right now.
Okay. So you were good about photographs. That's one thing I would lament that I was not very good at.
I was not very good at, but the ones that I got, I buried. But I'm looking at one that's probably, well, I don't know if I hold this up.
This is
can
the
you
gift
guys
that
see
Carl
it?
gave me. Here we go.
There you go.
This is what Carl gave me. I had I had a handful of these, and I gave them away. And then Remy gave me one of those. So, but there's a nice one of you and Remy.
Nice.
That's me and Professor at one of the Philly camps at Joe Bridenstine's.
Gotta love that mustache.
So that would have been probably 87.
Wow.
That's cool.
And then I have this guy. Oops. That's from
Okay.
one of my first seminars, because it's at the Armory in Frederick,
Oh,
and I
nice.
counted about 65 or 70 people,
Excellent.
and I didn't remember there being that many, but obviously there were. And it's just like Tim was talking earlier. I found a color picture of one of the Richard Roy camps, and I swear that Tim's in that picture. And I didn't remember ever meeting him at one of those camps. So.
Oh yeah, I know which one. Billy Bryant was there, and Bobby and Kathy Sullen were there, and that was fun. That was a fun camp.
Yeah, those are kind of bittersweet because it was fun to know that you were all there, and then maybe bad that you don't remember meeting or working with them. I had that experience a couple times too.
Oh, yeah, one other just minor funny Remy story.
Perfect.
Is I had him here one time and he left, and about 6 months later I'm cleaning off the coffee table and I had a couple old copies of Black Belt magazine lying around, and I just started flipping through it, and it was one that had Remy being instructor of the year, whatever year that was. It was back in the 80s.
Yep.
And
83.
He had written me a note.
Yep.
He wrote me a note and he signed it, and it was dated April 1991, and I probably saw it a year after he did it.
Good thing
he
didn't
never
throw it
told
away.
me he did. Yeah,
Wow.
it's good that I didn't just throw it back in the closet.
Little Easter egg for you. He was very thoughtful. I like that story. That's not minor. I like that one.
Yeah. There's just so many things. It sounds like it's always idol worshiping when you talk about the guy, but we're not talking about stuff. We're talking about personal experiences. We're not talking like, hey, Remy did this and Remy did that. I'm talking, no, Remy really did this stuff.
Right.
And he, let me see. Well, listen, that was the same way when we trained back in the day. The fees we paid for classes was to put food and a roof over their heads. We called it survival need. Yep. I got stuck in Germany. We had a little debacle where tickets disappeared. It was back in the day where an airline knew you had the tickets. They were your tickets, but they wouldn't reissue without paying for new ones. I got my money back, but it was in Germany and all this other stuff. Remy was ready to reach in his pocket, give me money, help me out. And it's not the first time this happened. I mean, on multiple times around training with him. If he thought somebody was in need, he wouldn't think twice about reaching in a wallet, pulling a fistful of dollars out and say, here, and he would actually write that money off in his head.
Yep.
And he's like, no, I'll pay you back. No, don't worry. I mean, my first trip to the Philippines, I said, I got my passport today. Oh, really? Boom. You're going to Germany. That was my first trip to Germany. And about 3 months later, after the trip, I had a fistful of dollars. Actually, I may have had the money on the trip, and I gave him the money back right there on the trip. But, he gave me a fistful of dollars. I gave him a fistful of dollars back. To me, it was just it was a loan, to help out. Let me see. Memories and talking about the professor, always keep his teachings available to the newer generation and pass it out. I mean, listen, I hope to God, okay, listen, Paulo Rubio said it. I'm a very polarizing person. People don't always like what comes out of my mouth, or maybe the way it comes out of my mouth. I really don't give a damn. It's who I am. And I'm not going to apologize for being Tim. But listen, I hope that people are listening to some of these stories and get these kernels out.
Yep.
I listen to interviews that I really despise listening to. People that are boring, people that I think are full of it, some people I think that are liars. But there's some little kernels I was able to get out and verify and stuff. And I listen to it all because you just don't know what you're going to hear that may resonate or click with you. And as long as YouTube's around, this channel is going to be there, whether it be hopefully decades after I'm no longer around. These videos will be out. Once it's on video, it lives on permanently one way or another. So if people get to understand about who Remy Praces was, not the idol worshiping BS of he was a martial art deity, he was a badass. I mean, can people talk about that? Well, you never hear the true stories. I hear about all these top guys. I don't hear any real stories about them. I will tell you one thing though. I've hung around Mal Morney on multiple occasions. Nicest guy you'd ever want to hang out with. Those are the things that are more important than someone's physical. Anybody can be good at martial arts. It doesn't take a rocket science. Come on, fist to face. How hard is that? But it's hard to be a good person. That's the most impressive thing to me. All right, I'm off my rant. Sorry.
I'll tell you one more quick little story. Remy's at my house, and we train, go to bed. I'm lying in bed. Our bedroom is upstairs. It's right over the kitchen. And I wake up like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I smell something burning. I'm going, holy shit, something's on fire. So I go running downstairs, and there's Professor in the kitchen. He's got bacon going. He's got eggs going. He just turns to me. He says, how you like your egg?
Yep.
So he was cooking breakfast for me and my wife.
Yep. Awesome.
Now you tell me what grandmaster does that?
Right.
I mean,
Bobby Tabata.
Yes, right.
Bobby Tabata does, yes. But I mean,
that's
he's one
true.
of the few.
But what I'm saying is that I've had, I've been around some other high-ranking instructors, and they're formal. You wouldn't find them messing around in your kitchen and poking around in your cupboards for pots and pans and going into the fridge and getting the bacon out.
No, he liked to. He was very good, right, about making everybody feel like family, right? Assuming you were worthy of that. Good stuff. And these human connections, I think, are important. And as Bill Anderson just wrote, that is called Filipino hospitality. There you go. He's a good guest.
Wait, hold on.
Exactly.
And look at this, Bobby Lodger. I know that guy.
That guy. Hey, to Bobby.
Bobby climbs in all the time.
Yeah.
And then Bill goes, yes, it's called Filipino hospitality, and that's the old school way. And it's a shame that it's becoming an old school way. I remember, we're New Yorkers have got a harder edge than some other parts of the country. But you know what we do when it snows? We dig each other out and talk about the previous snowstorm, and clear each other's driveways, get cars out of ditches, and it's you'd almost think we were family. And the sad thing is those things are becoming less and less common, where that was the norm over here. And and the martial art world, we were the same way. And even if it was your school versus my school, there's still a thing called common decency or common courtesy. Right. That seems to go on by the wayside, but what do I know? My little rant. I always have rants.
Speaking of, I think before this talk started, Carl, you asked if anything goes. Is there anything that you want to get out there as far as anything goes stuff? Either observations or your own rants or anything else you want to share?
Well, something Tim and I talked a little bit about over the weekend is that, I've always been curious why the Filipino arts don't find more application in the medical area. When you consider what the Filipino arts require of the brain and what it requires just crossing midline, what it requires, I do something called Feldenkrais method, and I work a lot with people of various professions to improve movement. So I work a lot with the dressage riders, for example.
Okay.
But one of the things, if you think about in the Filipino arts, you're taking information in from your senses, okay? And you end up either touching another human being, and so you get information in through the touch. When you go into close quarter, right? How useful are your eyes? Now you have to rely more on feel, on touch.
Right.
But even when you're in the middle range, now you're holding a stick, and maybe your stick is touching your partner. And then you're in a longer still range, and you're getting information from your stick touching something that your partner is holding. Now, if you think of how your brain has to function in those different levels, sorting that information out and turning it into something useful that you're going to act on. I mean, it's a really, it's equivalent to doing some pretty fancy musical work. If you watch somebody that's really good, doing keyboard or really good with a violin or a cello, and you realize what they're doing, it's all there in the Filipino martial arts. And so I've had people come to me not because they want to learn martial art, but because they've had some kind of a brain injury or they've had a stroke. And they found it to be a more powerful way of rehab than a lot of the traditional rehabs.
Perfect. Okay, so
I've
Bill,
always wondered if there was something that we could do to make, I mentioned to Tim, I can't think of the guy's name. It's an Irish sounding name, but
Cognitive Kali.
Cognitive Kali. He did a TED talk from UCLA, and I thought that was a really good place to begin. And I was hoping it was going to take off. I keep meaning to revisit it and see if he's done any more with it.
Unfortunately, the FMA world is treating as the ugly stepchild of the martial art world. And the sad thing is, most movies feature Filipino martial arts.
These days,
we have the adaptability of being anything. Now, here's one thing Bill Anderson just said. One thing I learned about Filipino martial arts is a better understanding of the human anatomy, and it increased my effectiveness in EMS and military medic careers.
Exactly.
Now,
I got him. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no, because Bill made a comment. I want to talk about this here. This is very important. Bill talked about winners here. Now, listen, you're right. New Yorkers have nothing on Chicago winners. But we're not talking New York. We're talking Buffalo. So, Bill, just because I'm going to share with you here, because I'm a loving, sharing guy. Remember, 2014, we got 8 feet of snow in 24 hours. So, this was after 6 hours of shoveling.
Lake effect, baby.
I had to get the hot tub open. I needed some kind of feeling of accomplishment. But you see, the snow was all the way up to the edge of that hot tub. And there's my van. That's the 3rd day of shoveling. Okay. And, when we talk about, New Yorkers, New York City, they know nothing about snow. But don't say that New York State doesn't know anything about snow. Actually, Watertown's worse than us. We just get better media coverage here in Buffalo. That was a Ford Focus in my driveway. So just because Bill made that comment, I had to go there. I couldn't let it go on. Any Buffalonian would say, "How dare you let that guy talk about Buffalo?" So and the snow. But let me see here. What do you? Been to Boston, New England, Korea. I made my decision. Middle of the South Pacific in the Philippines.
There you go.
There you go. Sarcasm. We love you, Bill. We love you. Actually, I think I like that one better for Bill.
His comment about medical applications and medical knowledge just reminded me of something when I was in the Feldenkrais training program to become a practitioner. They were throwing around all these medical terms that I wasn't familiar with. And so I pulled aside one of the instructors and I said, in order to complete this 4-year program, do I have to have any medical, the knowledge of all these medical terms and a good knowledge of anatomy? And he said, no, of course not, no. But all the good practitioners do.
Nice.
So, Carl, do you got anything coming up?
Do I have anything coming up?
Any events coming up?
No, just my regular events, and I am working on getting a couple of people up to black belt rank right now in modern Arnis.
Excellent.
And,
that's what we were talking about on the other day, and I think it's important. That's the most important.
Everybody's mission.
And my upcoming event would be Ty's event in December.
Okay, well, we will see you there for sure. So I need to get your contact information. So what school are you teaching? Are you taking students at the moment?
Always.
So what's the name of the club and where's it located?
How can they find you?
Well, my school is called Taekwondo Arnis Academy. And as I said, I have classes in Mount Airy and in Frederick. In Mount Airy, I do not currently. I had one that was maintained by one of my black belts, and he's moved out of the area, and I don't know how to do that kind of stuff. So,
gotcha.
But
So
part of the problem is that the pandemic really shut down a lot of my programs because the Mount Airy programs are for the most part taught through the local rec councils, and so we use public buildings. And so once the pandemic hit, all the public buildings shut down. My access in the evening disappeared. It basically killed my Taekwondo program. And I'm probably at this point of my life, I'm probably not going to resurrect the Taekwondo part. I'm going to stay with the Filipino
focus
part.
on Filipino martial arts. Yay!
You betcha.
There we go.
One of the reasons I got into it is I wanted an art that I could do as I got older.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to get a whole lot more older than this, so I figured now's the time.
Yeah, no, I think if I think FMA is a longevity art that if you get into it, you can do it for as long as you want.
Yep.
Well, I look at Grand Tuhan. I've worked with him a fair amount. He's done some one-on-one with me. I think he's 82 or 83 years old right now.
Wasn't Kakoi Kenyete training in his 90s?
I think that's right. Yes.
And the thing is, I watch him and I see him doing things, and I think, oh, he's doing it half speed. I can do that. And then I realize that his slow is faster than my fast.
Right.
Funny how that works.
And that's also a Feldenkrais concept. The people that are really well organized, who don't do anything extra, who do only what's necessary, always look like they're doing less. They always look like they're effortless, that they're floating. And you think, oh, I can do that. And then you try it and you realize, nope, you can't do that. At least not yet.
Right.
But if any one human nervous system can learn it, another can learn it, unless it's irrevocably damaged.
Right.
You just haven't found the right environment and spent the right amount of time.
Nice.
I like that.
All right.
So my Frederick classes, I actually teach at a karate school. That there's time periods when it's not being used, and so I fill those spaces.
Great. All right, we definitely need to get your contact information so I can put it below.
Yeah, we could put those school names. Since I assume maybe
whatever works best for you.
And the second school at least would have a website as well too, probably. But whatever contact, so people can find you.
Yeah.
So, did you want me to send that to you separately, or
if you can just email
it?
Yeah, just email it to me. I'll put it on the one channel. This will drop immediately. On the other channel, it can take up to 48 hours for it to propagate. Once it's done, then I can go in later and put your contact information on. Actually, several people owe me their contact information. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, all you people who haven't done your due diligence. But, this is great having you on.
Well, I enjoyed it. I hope it was amusing.
Yeah,
it's good stories, and good to, I think it's good to get those connections with the Modern East family.
Hey, we're looking to put a board together for like a one-night show of like 8 or 10 of us. It's the max I can have is 10 people on the show, including ourselves. Just like, maybe do like rapid fire questions. Someone sends in a question. Hey, what do you think about this? And give everyone a 2-minute timer. Was that something you'd be interested in being part of?
Sure.
Great.
As long as as long as I manage to figure out how to get my
Well,
silly
you got time
phone
to
and
figure out.
headphones working.
You got time to
Yeah.
figure that out. All right.
You know, it's
Well,
there
I'll tell
was
you what
a time in my life when. Go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead, because I'm just wrapping stuff up.
No,
so.
I was just commenting that I'm no longer a techie guy. When I was employed full time, I had to know high tech, and I was on the cutting edge of high tech. But now I'm kind of low tech or no tech.
There we go. Okay, here we go. Great conversation, informative. I'm someone outside the Modern East family. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed, Bill. There we go. All right. Well, listen. I'm gonna. If you can hang out for a minute, we'll do our post-show wrap-up, which is not online. It's just us talking for a minute or two. But I plan on seeing you in a few minutes. I'll see you. I'll plan on seeing you down at Ty's. And thanks for coming on the show.
Definitely.
All right. Okay, so let's wrap this up. So events coming up the 4th, December 4th, is the Phase 4 Tappy seminar. By all means, it is not too late to sign up. This is going to be more geared towards the Balintawak influence portion of Tappy. If you've got any kind of stick experience, that'd be fine. Then the 11th, the following weekend, PG Sam Wolf is doing a EDT seminar in Mount Gilead, Ohio, which is 45 minutes north of Columbus. And we will be down in the Fairfax area for the Fall Fling. And Ty's got a variety of Filipino systems being represented there. And you never know who's going to show up to do stuff.
That's right.
It's on Facebook. Also, I'm going to put it up on the World Modern East website. If you have any questions on what we do, you can find us through worldmoderneast.com or wmoderneast.com. There's a school section now, which actually looks pretty sharp, if you ask me. I've been working on that, updating some things. Also, go check out pracesarnis.com. That is the home for the 65th anniversary Modern East Camp.
Nice.
Boom. So are we good for next week, Monday?
Who do we got next week?
No, I think it's our topic. I think it's the topic, the school topic.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay, so this one, I want participants out there. I'm sick and tired of Filipino martial arts being the minority out there, and they're everywhere. Okay, listen, I was even in freaking Iceland. There's like 400 of them there, and they're like, it's Iceland. It is an island, but it's Iceland, and they go everywhere. So Filipinos are everywhere. So why can't their art be everywhere?
Absolutely.
Okay. And why do we have to run out of somebody else's school? It should not be the rare exception. It should be the norm. And we'll talk about that next week. Okay, listen, as always, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I always have a blast being out here with my brother from another mother, Ty. We have 4. There you go. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Excellent.
So, because the question's going to be, we'll talk about that. I'm curious to hear about that. Maybe we need to have Bill on the show.
There we go.
Bill,
I was going to say.
you be on the show? Okay, Bill, you can chime in anytime you want. If you could be on the show, maybe we'll have you on the show. All right. So, I don't know. I think that's about it. What do you think, Ty? It
was a good, comfortable visit. I actually learned some things. It's always nice hanging out with Carl.
Okay, here we go. Depends on the time and the. Well, I mean, it would be on a Monday like this, and
same bat time, bat channel.
Is Guam on the same time zone as the Philippines?
Gosh,
if they are, then they're 13 hours ahead of us instead of 12 right now because of daylight savings time.
Right.
And what does he say? Exactly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, Bill.
Damn, I'm good. That would be a Tuesday here if that works for you. Tuesday morning, 8:30 a.m. No 2 hours behind.
Ahead.
Well, is it 12 hours ahead? Oh, no, that's right. It's whatever. You know what the hell I'm thinking. Whatever. Stop messing with my head.
Okay, it's 22 here, 2200 here, 1300 there.
Okay, so they're, whatever.
So
Figure
it's
it out. I don't know.
9 hours.
Is it 9? No, they're 13.
They're 20.
We're behind them. So we got
Right.
2 more hours to take it to 2,400.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we're 15 hours.
15 hours.
Holy cow. Yeah, so we're 15 hours behind.
So how are we talking to him if he's in the future?
I don't know. Is it Back to the Future already? Where's Michael J. Fox?
I'm a dork.
And Jeremy says another good episode. Actually, they wanted to kick the crap out of cancer. It was just send an email. Okay. All right. Hey, send an email. So I have your email, datutim@gmail.com. Send me an email so I can send you one. They just went up, kicked the crap out of cancer. So an email just came in. I wonder if that's Bill. And they took Prasis Arnis and gave it to them. And they were even doing like the #1 lever disarm and all this other in a Dog Brother-esque environment.
Nice.
Yeah. So Craig, we're gonna have I can tell you
The weather, because he's in the future.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, I need to know the weather. I don't know when Santa's getting here. It was just sparring gather. Yeah, we know. It wasn't beat the crap? Oh, I thought it was. Close enough. So they were doing a Dog Brother event, and see you later, Rich. They were doing a Dog Brother event. So modern people fight in Dog Brother events. Go figure.
Yeah.
And there we go. Sarcasm again. And they kicked ass from what I was told. So boom. And that's for all the people in Modern East who don't fight. It's time to step up. So anyways, on that note, let us end this show. It was excellent action. Great. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over. We're going to go to this. So I'm going to go like this. So Ty, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I always love my brother from another mother.
Thank you for coming too.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Listen, it's good because we've had some people make some comments think that the two of us work well together, which is great. I heard that because I listened to your interview on the FMA discussion. And Dean Frankel thought we were a nice yin yang.
Cool.
So good cop, bad cop. Nice guy, jerk. I'll let you all figure out who's whom. It's him. It's him. Oh, wrong one. There we go.
There you go.
All right, guys. As always, thank you for tuning in. Everybody, please stay safe. Stay sane. This is Datu Tim.
PG Tye. Take care, everyone.
All right. See you soon.